Did the St. Louis Blues make the right decision by cutting Dvorsky? We'll discuss coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a happy Monday, September 30th. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I am going to talk to you about Dvorsky getting cut and a little bit of a rant that I have about it. We're so lucky to have Dylan Holloway wearing the blue note, and it is almost the regular season, which I cannot wait for. But we have so much to discuss. I have to tell you, I have to be very honest with you. I waited all yesterday to film today because I just had so many thoughts about Dvorsky, and I just had to calm down so I could explain why I feel the way that I feel. Anyways, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I put out some tweets yesterday. Let me go tell you. I put out some tweets. I saw that Dvorsky got cut. 13 players sent down to the Thunderbirds. And I felt absolutely gutted for Dvorsky. You might be wondering, Hale, why do you feel badly for Dvorsky? You know, this is the right decision, blah, blah, blah. I am allowed to feel bad for a player for them not making the team. I don't think there was anything wrong with feeling bad for a player that literally said in interviews that he really wanted to make the team. It is such a competitive game. It is such a competitive league, right? And, you know, Dvorsky was our 10th overall draft pick last year, and I really did grow fondly of him. I watched him play with, in juniors, and I became a fan, right? There is nothing wrong with feeling badly for a player that they didn't make the team. Now, do I think he's going to eventually make the team? Absolutely. And I know that, Armstrong, Bannister, none of them want him to kind of get lost in the system, and they know they're not going to fail him. I said this before on Locked On Blues. I said, as somebody that's a huge fan of Dvorsky and wants to see him thrive, I would have loved for him to make the team only if he deserved to make the team. And that means having a good training camp. Now, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't a big standout. He's 19 years old. And going to the AHL, and I said this in a previous episode, it's not a negative at all. The AHL is a very competitive league. It's actually grown a lot lately in competitiveness. I watch the Thunderbirds a lot. I go to a lot of T-Birds games. Huge fan. It's going to allow him to get more minutes on the ice. It's going to allow him to develop. It's actually more beneficial for Dvorsky to go to the Thunderbirds so he can get those, opportunities that he wouldn't get being on the Blues yet. Okay? So yeah, I put out some tweets yesterday basically explaining that I felt badly for Dvorsky. I also put out a tweet saying, I bet this is going to be a conversation one day on the show. What if Dvorsky made the team and would things be different? And the reason why I say that is, what if hypothetically, again, I tend to be a little bit negative. What if the Blues are having a really tough season and he's killing it in the AHL? They call him up and then he's playing amazing. Now, we might have that conversation, right? That might happen. But I was kind of just, putting out something that I said could be a potential show topic one day. I think the problem is when people see tweets, right? When people see things put on social media, they just assumed that I was against Dvorsky going down to the Thunderbirds when I literally had in my episode last week saying I would understand the reasoning why, and that might be the most beneficial move to not just him and his development, but to the team itself within the Blues. I feel like that got taken out of context. And, I know there's going to be people that say, oh, well, watch what you tweet. But again, I am myself, Haley. Hi. I am allowed to feel badly for a player, okay? I'm allowed to feel badly that he didn't accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, and that was to make the team. And then people said, oh, he never said that. Please check what you say before you post something. He literally said it in interviews. I did a whole episode on it. Like, Dvorsky said that it was his goal to make the team that he knows he can do it. So I think that a lot of people just took something that I said and tried to make it into something that it wasn't. All along, the chances of him making the team this season were going to be very difficult. Let's just say he did have the best training camp of all time. He was playing amazing. It would have been also hard to find him a spot on the Blues, right? With all the contracts of the different players that they have. It's a very complicated situation. I think that having motivation, wanting to get something, right? Wanting to be on this team, he should have that motivation. He should still thrive for that. I mean, let's go say he's on the T-Birds and someone gets hurt on the Blues, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. Let's just say someone gets like an overnight fever, 24-hour bug. That makes me feel better saying this. He might get called up. You never know. He could still very well wear the blue note this upcoming season. However, I think that getting more time on ice and just getting more opportunity, getting more experience, and instead of jumping from juniors to the NHL, you're jumping from juniors to the AHL. Still a big jump, but however, it's more gradual than going just to the show, as they call it. So I wanted to clarify that because that was something that really bothered me yesterday was people just assuming that I was naive to the fact that the AHL would be beneficial when I had a whole entire episode on how I think it would benefit Dvorsky. And another thing that I kind of thought about too, is it wrong to feel upset for a player, right? Even though it's the right decision. I think that it's actually a good thing to feel some type of way. Maybe you feel disappointed for them or, upset for them because you see a lot of hope and promise in them and you don't want them to lose that motivation or drive. I have a feeling that Dvorsky will be fine and that, I saw him on social media today. He was at T-Birds at camp. So looking good out on the ice. But I just really wanted to touch on that. And I'm not going to say specifically because there was multiple accounts that took the tweet out of context. But I really wanted to address it because I'm allowed to feel badly for a player, right? And then not accomplishing the goal that they set out to accomplish. And still at the same time say this was the right decision that the team made. Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's all I had to say. But Drew Bannister spoke today following camp, and he did talk a little bit about Dvorsky and Dvorsky not making this team. The one thing that I really like about Drew Bannister is his honesty. He is beyond honest, and he obviously used to coach the T-Birds. So he's actually a really great person to talk to. He said, I saw some good steps, whether it was practice or the games or getting more comfortable on the ice. These are younger hockey players, and they will dictate when they're ready to play. He's 19 years old, and he's coming from junior, and, this is a big transition. It could be 2 months or a year for when he is ready to play. Again, Bannister did go on to say that it is up to him to determine that. He's going to be a big part of the future here in St. Louis, and we're not going to let him down. He's going to have to play a lot of minutes in the AHL, which is a good thing, he went on to say. He wants to get him down here, aka Thunderbirds, get him settled, and it's going to be a new situation for him. He talked a lot too about Dvorsky, having to get his own apartment, maybe a roommate, learning how to cook, and basically just doing life. And this is what the step is when you become pro. You're going to have to figure out some real life things at 19 years old. Again, he reiterated the opportunity, and he's actually kind of curious to see how quickly he adapts down in Springfield. And there is no set timeline for when he is ready to come up to play for. But again, I think the key thing to take away from what Bannister had to say was, one, they know he's a big part of the future here. He wants him to get those minutes on ice, which I just said. And, he's going to have to figure things out about life. And this is a big transition for him. So I think that this is a very beneficial situation. Yes, it sucks and you can feel badly for a player. But I wouldn't be surprised maybe a couple of seasons from now, we look back and think, wow, this was the best decision this organization could have made because it really did allow him to develop. And I truly believe that. Getting sent to the AHL when you're 19 years old is not a bad thing, okay? Maybe in some later years, like if you're 24, getting higher up in your career, then maybe that's a little bit of a concern. But at 19 years old, I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. I take this as a positive. They are going to develop Dvorsky. I promise you that. And the Blues' future looks pretty bright. So I'm happy I got to clarify all of that because I really need to get that off my chest because it was bothering me a lot with some of the things people said about how I felt about the situation. When if you listen to Locked On Blues, you will know how I feel about the situation. You know what I feel good about? It is game time. So Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, okay? They have the super deal, and it is so good because it shows you the best deal possible. One thing that I love so much about Gametime Picks, and just Gametime in general, is that it curates deals to make it even easier to find the best price on great seats. You get to see where you're sitting before you buy the ticket, which is my favorite feature. Also, you get the lowest price guarantee, so you can even have event cancellation, job loss protection, and more. Game Time really does make it so easy for you to get the best price. Like, unbelievable what Game Time can do. So this is what I need you to do. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Dylan Holloway. Dylan Holloway. So the Blues had their first preseason game win. Yay! Oh, that was bad. But it was against the Chicago Blackhawks. Boo! But it did go to overtime. Boo! Because we don't like overtime in preseason. But Dylan Holloway. Dylan Holloway. Dylan Holloway scored that OT goal, and the Blues won 3-2. Now, I know I said, I don't care about, the scores, the results, but I have to tell you, it was a pretty fun game to watch. I am just so excited about what Dylan Holloway can do for the Blues. I think that this is one of those situations where, this guy is the real deal. He's going to get so much playing time um, on the ice just because of his talent and more opportunity that he could get in Edmonton. But he's been looking so, so, so good. And I'm just over the moon about it. Like, you have no idea, like, how I feel as a fan when it comes to Dylan Holloway. And I wouldn't know, like, are you this excited about him? Because for me personally, it's just one of those things where I just feel like he is going to create some big, big numbers for St. Louis this season. You know what? Right now, I would say over 20 goals. However, I understand that right now it might just be one of those things where, it, you know, it may not be that. I just have such a good feeling about Dylan Holloway. And just watching him play just really was amazing. I mean, there's not a lot of players that you can watch during preseason and think, wow, this is going to change up the team. And I think that's how I felt when I was watching Holloway play. Another thing, too, is his presence on the ice. It is just so, like, you have to watch it. You can't take your eyes off of it. Sure, am I sounding a little bit too excited about Dylan Holloway? Yes. However, I do have a reason to feel that way. And by the way, his goal was assisted by Texier, because I know a couple of us, including me, were wondering when we are going to see him, and Nick Leddy. But it was a great goal, and Dylan just got in the back of the net. It was a beaut. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to think back to the offer sheets, right? when we got Philip Broberg and Holloway. Now, think back to, the expectations that you had for Holloway, especially then. You thought, he's going to be a good player on the team. He's going to help them out a lot. I think personally, he is going to be one of the top scorers on the Blues this season, and his impact's going to be a lot bigger than we thought. Now, I know that's a little bit of a too early prediction. I am just so excited about him and to see what he can do for this team, this organization. And I think just watching him too, right? And just how he gets in front of the net. He's ready for rebounds if needed. It is refreshing to see that because that's something that St. Louis kind of struggled with a little bit last season was the rebounding, right? And I'm huge when it comes to rebounding. I'm huge when it comes to, presence in front of the opposing team's net and just making yourself well known. Oh man, I didn't even tell you. Like I was so focused on Holloway's goal in OT. He also did score, by the way, in the third period. And the Joseph brothers, both of them assisted him on that goal. So, I mean, there is no other player like Dylan Holloway, and I just cannot wait for him to finally get his debut in the regular season. But it is exciting to have him on the Blues. It's exciting for the Blues to really, think about we're going to put him in this lineup, right? I mean, personally, I think that he could be a top 9. However, maybe in the second line. I think there's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to be made. But I mean, one thing too that I liked too was the Holloway, Foxa, and Joseph line combination. I thought that was kind of fun. It's like having, some of your new guys. Well, all of them are new guys for the Blues. So I like that. I just cannot wait, right? I mean, this preseason, I know that it's been a little bit disappointing with some of the losses, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, he's been really showing up, right? I mean, during the game, he had 3 block shots and it was 2 body checks and stole the puck once. Like, come on now, right? He had 16 minutes and 14 seconds on the ice, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah, I think he's going to definitely make the team. Now where would we put him? That's another question, but that is a player that really stood out during preseason. Another player, I know we're talking about Holloway right now, but another player that stood out during preseason to me so far has been Zachary Bolduc. He has stood out to me. And Jake Neighbors, a little underrated Jake Neighbors, but so has he. I mean, Ryan Suter looks good on defense, better than I expected. Like, there's just so much to be excited about when it comes to the St. Louis Blues team. And I cannot wait for the game against Seattle because we can finally see, all the line combos that we've been kind of brainstorming here on this podcast on Twitter at Locked On Blues or wherever you listen to your podcast of Locked On Blues. Maybe you're thinking of a line combo, but I have to tell you, this is a very exciting time to be a Blues fan, right? I think I said this about if it was a year ago, right? And Dvorsky was still 19, right? So same age, but it was the same team as a year ago. He might have made the team then, but now there are so many, good players that are going to really benefit this organization. So I think that this is the best time to be a fan of the Blues. I think that this is going to be a good season. And if what we're seeing during preseason, they're doing better on the power play, right? I know they haven't, the game against Columbus, they were 0-6. However, they did get good presence in front of the net, which is an improvement. I believe if they keep making these strides, they could be a playoff team. There's no reason why the Blues can't be. And I'm going to be optimistic until they give me a reason not to be. Preseason wins and losses, folks, they don't matter. But what does matter is what you see on the ice from the individual or what you see on the ice, however, from special teams, if that makes sense, like a power play, a penalty kill. However, now that the roster is getting more condensed, right, we're going to see more of an NHL looking roster. Do the wins and losses necessarily matter still? No. But what we see on the ice is going to be a lot more of a team perspective rather than an individual perspective. If that makes any sense to you, because that makes sense in my head, but I just, I'm just so excited. Like this weekend really did give me a lot of excitement about what we're going to see from this coming season. You know what also gives me excitement? It is FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. And that is such a great deal. You get $200 in bonus bets. That is unreal. So let's go say you decide, hey, I'm going to be, a day one listener of Locked On Blues, right? Well, later tonight, there's 2 Monday Night Football games. You have the Titans and Dolphins, which is gonna be kinda boring, and then you have the Seahawks and Lions, which is gonna be kinda boring. But, let's go say you're like, "Hey, yo, let me take Lions money line, middle of the game." Do that, FanDuel.com. Boring games. I don't like these Monday night games, by the way. So FanDuel. Can't believe it's already gonna be week 5 this coming week. Crazy. Almost regular season. So this off season, this preseason, it's going by quite fast, right? I still can't believe how fast it is going. But, before we know it, it's going to be 1 week from our first regular season game, which is a week from tomorrow. So that is going to be starting off the NHL season against the Seattle Kraken. What's Kraken? It's going to be an afternoon game. I think it's stupid, but we out here, we optimistic. So the Blues did something today. So it has to do with Nitika Alexandrov. So the St. Louis Blues announced today that the team has signed forward Nitika Alexandrov to a 1-year, 2-way contract for $775,000 NHL and then $150,000 AHL. Alexandrov, 24, appeared in 23 regular season games with the Blues last season, posting 2 assists. He also was in 7 regular season games for the Thunderbirds, recording 7 points with 3 goals and 4 assists. So the German native, especially Die Deutsch, so I can relate, has posted 9 points, 3 goals, 6 assists, and 12 penalty minutes in 51 regular season games with the Blues. He was originally drafted by the Blues in the second round, 62 overall, in the 2019 NHL draft. So I'm very excited for Nitika to be back. So definitely a very good thing for the Blues. So the Blues assigned some more players down to the Thunderbirds, actually. And I panicked for a minute. You might be like, why am I panicking? Mateus, kind of expected. McGurturn expected. Hugh McGing expected. And Hunter Skinner. So not surprised, but that happened. Also, Brandon Saad could miss the opening season trip. So this is actually positive, and I'm so excited to announce this. So Brandon Saad said Friday that he could miss the season opening road trip because his wife is expected to deliver their 3rd child. Quote, she's due right around the time we're going to be on the trip. She could come any day. So not going isn't really ruled out. It's just kind of up in the air and taking it day by day. It's something where you obviously don't want to miss the birth. I'm sorry, the way that he just described that. If your child is about to be born, I get it. But the way that he just used it in totally hockey terms, depending on how things are going, obviously, he may not be able to be with us for the first 3 games of the road trip. Bannister said we'll go in a different direction now in training camp with our lines if he isn't able to play for us. I'm sorry. The way that he totally just was like, yeah, it's something I can't miss. It's the birth. Bro, obviously, it's your child. So, fun episode today of Locked On Blues. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak towards the end of these episodes. My mouth gets so dry because I don't drink while I'm doing this. So, a lot of fun. I will talk to you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.